Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Today we're going to be talking about the sell-off in crypto, why this is ultimately fueled by the Chinese advancement of a new AI model, how it's going to be competing against the American models like ChatGPT and Meta. This is a very important advancement that I believe is going to be a talking point throughout 2025 as we're seeing more and more competition between China and America with AI. I do firmly believe that many of the cryptos positioned in this narrative are not only going to rally really hard on the days with a lot of volatility, they sell off as well. I'm going to share with you guys exactly what the charts are showing, make sure that we can all be positioned and prepared knowing, is this a black swan or is this just a FUD event before we go much higher throughout this year? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you did find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. And without further ado, let's jump right into this amazing video today. So as we're jumping into this video, I wanted to start out with an article because this is more or less going to summarize what we're seeing in the 24-hour period as the stock market's opened, as crypto started to sell off. All of these things are directly tied to what is taking place across the news. A shocking Chinese AI advancement called DeepSeek is sending US stocks plunging. US stocks dropped sharply Monday morning after a surprise advancement from a Chinese artificial intelligence company, DeepSeek, threatened the aura of invincibility surrounding America's technology industry. DeepSeek, a one-year-old startup, revealed a stunning capability last week. It presented a ChatGPT-like AI model called R1, which has all of the familiar abilities operating at a fraction of the cost of OpenAI's or Google or Meta's popular AI models. The company said it had just spent $5.6 million on computing power for its base model, compared with the hundreds of millions or billions of dollars US companies spent on their AI technologies. That sent shockwaves through the markets, in particularly the tech sector on Monday. The S&P 500 fell by 1.4%. The NASDAQ plunged by 2.3%. We also ended up seeing Nvidia's stock plummeting as well, pulling back even more than those. So when we're talking about the entire market, the tech space is seeing a lot of selling, and because of that, crypto is directly correlated with all of this, and we're seeing it pulling back as well. Bitcoin is now back below $100,000, and it's important that we're talking a little bit about what is taking place. Now, to start off things, do I think that this is a black swan event before we go much lower? Now, it is possible we do go lower, but I don't think it's a black swan event necessarily. A black swan to me is something that's like a really negative thing. For example, when you're talking about, the COVID capitulation in the last cycle, that was a big, sort of black swan. This taking place, I think, is just FUD. I'm not really anticipating too much from it, but we could see further downside in the market, as indicated by what we're seeing today. The market did drop suddenly, and after that breakdown, we retested horizontal resistance, and we also broke down from that. So as it stands, the market is continuing to get downside. I think it's likely that we come all the way back down, and we're probably going to end up retesting some of these lows that we were just consolidating at. So we're really looking at like 92,100 as that next major support. And I do find it likely that with us having the follow through to the downside, rejecting off of this horizontal resistance, it is likely we're going to follow through and make a full retrace of this entire move. And then from that point, we could be looking at our reversal. The total market cap is already broken from those prior all-time highs of the last cycle, and we're currently just consolidating on top of those as new support. So as it stands, this is a huge support and resistance flip. If this was to pull back, I would find it very hard to believe that we would end up coming all the way back down and actually rejecting, falling back within those prior all-time highs. I do find it likely that if we sell off, it's probably just going to come back down and retest this same support. More or less the same things that I was drawing with Bitcoin. Coming back down to those same support levels that we were holding right before this recent rally, you're pretty much looking at the same consolidation on the weekly time frame for the total market cap. The big thing that we need to realize and remember here is the fact that we're sitting on top of the prior all-time highs as new support on a weekly time frame. We still have, the whole week to go before this candle closes. So a lot can change in all of that time. We could see this candle fully retrace, come all the way back down to this support level, and then actually close back within the middle range of this move, all within the next 7 days, 6.5 approximately at this point. But because we're holding such a major level and we're sitting into new all-time highs holding this support, I find it very much likely that the second that this reverses, whether we retest this support level once more or whether we just kind of end up reversing here, I think that it's likely that this does take us into our next new all-time high and the first true new all-time high of our cycle, because Bitcoin has made a new all-time high, yes, But when we're talking about the total market cap doing this, it really shows that the majority of everything is going to be going up. Not only just Bitcoin, but altcoins as a whole. So we're really just sitting kind of at that last moment before that big parabolic cycle sets in. And if I had to compare where we're at the last cycle, it reminds me a lot of basically when we had been through all of this consolidation, and then the second that the market ended up flipping that prior high, that was really where we got liftoff. And I think that where we're at right now in the total market cap is a similar time, considering the cycles are always going to be a little different. Notice how this was our first higher high, and then it went through that COVID capitulation, still maintained support. It was just a lot deeper of a pullback. And then it was once we started uptrending and we actually broke back out, we flipped that resistance level, those prior range highs that we've been consolidating on for so long, even flipping the mid-cycle range from our bear market of 2018. It was on that move right here. Flipped it, retest, and then that was where our big parabolic push ended up coming into the new all-time highs. This is something that I'm anticipating taking place once more going into this cycle. Now, if we're taking and overlaying what it would be like if we followed what the last cycle did, remember guys, we're looking at a cycle top at the end of 2025. So basically right there. And it would look something like this, where you pretty much immediately go into this big new all-time high push. Eventually you come to somewhat of a midway sell-off. At that midway sell-off, this is showing, basically June, May to June, and that's what I think is going to play out once more. We're looking, and every cycle up to this point's followed the same things, where you get that midway sell-off, right? In the last cycle, it was right here. We peaked in May, pulled back, everything got hosed, all the altcoins sold off massively. If we look at 2017, that took place right here, where the all-time highs were here. We made that first breakout into price discovery and pulled back. And it was at the top of this move and this pullback, altcoins sold off 40%. Bitcoin made another new all-time high all the way to here. Altcoins basically trended sideways. And then when Bitcoin pulled back at 5K and went back down to 3K right here, altcoins made another lower low. So it wasn't until Bitcoin had finished another new all-time high and had basically got to the point of making the final blow-off top right there. It was from 5K to 20K that the altcoins finally reversed and went to their blow-off tops. So there was a midway sell-off right here that happened at the exact same time. It peaked in June. So in June of 2017, that was where altcoins sold off from their highs going into price discovery and then made their big, midway corrections. In our last bull market, it was basically the same time frames, May. So just barely before the exact same time in the last cycle. We had that big run up, talking September, October, November, the very ending of 2020, beginning of 2021. We had that big run all the way until May, and then we saw that big 60% sell-off. A lot of altcoins peaked right here. Dogecoin, Chainlink, a lot of DeFi projects peaked, and as Bitcoin ran for another new all-time high at the end of the year, they made lower highs and kept going lower. So there were certain altcoins like Solanas, Phantoms, Terra Lunas, the ones that kept going into new all-time highs there, but many of them never ended up doing that. And the point is, if we're following this cycle, we're going to end up doing something similar, where we make this first big run all the way up, blowing up the markets until the summer sometime, probably looking at May, June, July timeframes, and then you get that big sell-off. That's where a lot of altcoins are going to sell off 60 to 90%. A lot of the top altcoins are going to pull back massively, and then, whether they all rally for a blow-off top, it really depends on how much money there is for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin keeps making massive moves, I think that there's enough money to go around that the altcoins can as well. So I don't think that with what we're seeing on the higher time frames, holding this weekly time frame, basically holding the all-time highs as new support on the weekly, it's setting up for that big breakout, which will ultimately take us to the midway correction. So I'm holding. I'm not really looking to worry too much about all of this. I do think that we're going to end up reversing once we hold this level. That'll take us into the next big move. The big one coming is so profitable that you really want to do your part by just willing to hold through, stick to your positions, because I promise it will be rewarded once we see this next breakout come. Always a lot of FUD to begin the new year. I think the markets were pulling back momentarily with the inauguration. Things should end up, kind of reversing going into the beginning of this year, springtime, before we get really heated up the summer of this year. But with that being said, guys, this is the video I had for you. If you did find value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. If you want to see anything I'm doing with my portfolio long term, links are in the description to be able to copy all my trades. Telling you guys, things are looking really bullish. I don't think we should be threading this too much. Big picture, there's going to be a very massive move coming, and I think that as long as we're sticking to that, thesis and holding to our positions, we'll have the opportunity of making a lot of money. But with that being said, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.